because if all of us go, then we all get arrested or we get killed or something. There wouldn't be a cadre to follow up. So we decided what we'd do is let the first 10 go, and I would be a part of the second group. In fact, I was spokesman for the second group. So when they got arrested in Birmingham, we said, okay, now it's time for us to go. We said, well, wait a minute. Suppose all 10 of us get arrested. So what we did was we divided up. 5 went by car, and the other went by train. And we wanted to rendezvous in Birmingham. But we didn't know in the meantime, while we were on our way down to Birmingham, Bull Connor had taken them out of jail and was bringing them back to the state line of Tennessee. So during the night, we passed each other.
Jim Zwerg, going to the state line, how scary was that?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the state line because when we got to the Birmingham city limits, the bus was stopped and Bull Connors arrested Paul Brooks and myself for disobeying an officer when we refused to give up our seats. I was put in the drunk tank with about 40 various staged of inebriated white Southerners, and so when the others were taken out to the state line, Paul and I remained in jail until the 19th when we went to court. We were found guilty, and when they heard that the buses were going to take us on to Montgomery, we were released.
Bernard Lafayette, talk about when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King got involved with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. King came down when we had this mass meeting in Montgomery, when we continued the freedom rides from Birmingham. Martin Luther King got involved when we had the violence at the bus station in Montgomery, and we had the mass meeting at the church, and he wanted to be there to show his support and that kind of thing. That's when Martin Luther King was involved.
Now, you all had asked him to join you on the freedom rides, but he refused. Were you in that meeting?
Yes, I was chairing the meeting. Yes, and some of the students, particularly students who were from other states, who had been involved in SNCC, and also who were part of CORE or some other groups, and because they felt that Martin Luther King would give the kind of visibility, and visibility sometimes meant some kind of security and protection, because the media played a very important role. And had it not been for the media, we don't know whether we would have survived physically. And that's one of the reasons why they attacked the media in Montgomery first. I was standing there. They went past us.
And they are? These
are the members of the Ku Klux Klan and other kind of people who were part of some hate groups and that kind of thing.
The police?
No, these were actually citizens.
Right, but also the police's role?
Yes, the policemen sat back and did nothing and allowed them to have about, well, they agreed on 15 minutes to rough us up, and they agreed that they couldn't kill us, but they could beat us up.
They went after the journalists first?
They went after journalists, smashed cameras.
Who were you standing next to?
Yes, I saw a life photographer. There were 2 of them. One was very tall and young, and the other was kind of short and a little chubby. And they started running, and they were trying to get the camera from the short guy. And I understand this life reporter who was a football player, and he was able to grab the camera and take off. They couldn't catch him at all. But this was at the bus station in Montgomery, Alabama, where Jim Zwerg, was brutally beaten. But I was right there and saw the whole thing. But now, on the issue of Martin Luther King, there was a debate. There was not consensus. What should be said is this. Martin Luther King went to jail many times, so going to jail was not an issue for him. His house had been bombed with his wife and his baby there, okay? He had been a victim of many death threats and that kind of thing, so he was totally committed. So it was not out of a fear for Martin Luther King. He was on probation in Georgia Because remember when Kennedy was running for president, Kennedy made the phone call that helped to get Martin Luther King off the chain gang because he had not changed his license when he moved from Alabama to Georgia. So that charge had nothing to do with the movement per se. It was extreme in giving someone 6 months because they didn't get their license changed, but that was the maximum. But had Martin Luther King got arrested on the Freedom Rides, he would have been off serving a sentence in Georgia. So you have to look at the practicality of it. Yes, but he helped. He was there at the mass meeting. He was the spokesman for the group. And so I was one of those who persuaded him not to come on the Freedom Rides because we didn't need him in jail. We needed him, on the outside helping to raise money to get us out. Did
it cause a rift with some of the other Freedom Riders that he wouldn't go since they saw him as serious protection? That
yes.
was a rift that would last for a while.
Yes, it did. And when you're in a situation like we were in, you need all the help you could get. But I agree that people must play different roles at different times. So I was very much coming, from the point of view of we didn't need Martin Luther King in jail this time.
Jim Zwerg, what happened to you?
Well, I realized from my experience in Nashville that I was going to be a focus for violence if there was going to be violence. In that the segregationists, if they hated anybody, they hated a white being with the blacks. I was called all the names, and I was a disgrace to the white race. And when I saw the mob coming, I realized that probably I was going to have some violence.
And explain exactly where you were.
We were standing on the bus platform. We'd gotten off the bus. When we first arrived, it was very quiet.
This was in Montgomery.
Yes, there were some of the media around, and John was our spokesman.
John Lewis, the now congressman.
And we had gotten off the bus, and he was just stepping forward to respond to some questions.
And just as he was about to do this fella went at one of the fellas that was holding one of the parabolic mics. And he grabbed it out of his hands and he threw it to the ground, stomped on it, and turned and approached one of the photographers and grabbed his camera and yanked on it, and in his doing so, the cameraman fell to the ground. He started kicking and beating him. And that seemed to be the cue.
The mob came out and went straight to the reporters and started beating them and kicking them and throwing their cameras down, smashing them on the ground.
After we were forced away, that's when the attack on the riders themselves started.
It just seemed like, just suddenly, we were like, the bus was like surrounded.
Just from around the bus bays and up the driveways and around the bus terminal, here came this massive humanity screaming, kill them, get the niggers, kill the niggers, kill them, get them, get them, get them. And you could see the weapons they were carrying, the hammers, bricks, chains, whatever. And you knew that there was going to be violence. And I bowed my head and I asked God to be with me, to give me the strength to remain nonviolent and to forgive them. And basically at that moment I got grabbed and pulled into the mob.
And what happened?
I got a thumping, a pretty severe thumping.
He might not remember, but I was there and I saw him, and what they did was knocked him over the rail. And then they picked him up and stood him in front of the rail again and knocked him over, knocked his teeth out, and they kept clobbering him and kicking him on the ground. And they took a crate, and Coca-Cola crate, and hit John Lewis on the head. It gashed him on the head. But I was there, and I saw what they were doing to him.
And what did you then do? Jim Zwerg, you went off to the hospital. You were taken off. You were unconscious.
Yes.
John Lewis?
John Lewis was.
John was taken to the hospital.
Yeah.
They were able to find some black ambulances